art.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Painting with Connor. I'm going to be walking you through a beautiful landscape painting. This week, we are going to be painting the sky. So I'm going to be running the colors across the bottom of your screen there. We have white, primary yellow, medium magenta, light blue violet, and cobalt blue today. I've just got one brush today, which is our 1-inch flat brush. I really want to show you that with painting, you don't really need too many things to produce a beautiful painting. If you don't have these exact colors, you can just find a color close enough. And if you don't have this exact size canvas, which is a 16 by 20 inch canvas, if you don't have that size, you can use whatever size you have and make this painting your own. So I'm going to be starting with the horizon line with some white and a touch of yellow. I'm going to be doing a lovely dawn scene today, the beginning of the day. We're starting off a new day today. And I'm going to come up here to right around halfway up my canvas, and I'm going to make a nice flat line. It's okay if your line is not perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to go right across approximately the center of the canvas there. Then I'm going to be working my way up the sky one color at a time. So starting off with white and yellow. The other thing I'm going to be doing with this white and yellow is I want some energy in my sky today, so I'm going to have this white and yellow flow up and to the right just a little bit. Our sky is going to be blowing across the landscape today. So I'm going to bring this white and this yellow up and to the right just a little bit. Now, something I do here while I'm working on a sky like this is I switch the direction I'm holding my brush. You'll notice right now I'm using my brush horizontally or thin ways. I'm using the thin edge of the brush. As I begin to blend my colors, this is going to produce streaks in my sky, which is going to give the impression of some small stringy clouds in the background there. And that's what I'm going for. Every once in a while, I'll switch my brush to vertical, up and down, which will give me a nice thick brush stroke. And I typically use that for blending, for soft blending. I don't want too much yellow in my sky today though, so that's probably enough. What's that, a couple inches? 1 or 2 inches of yellow. And you'll also see here that I'm making sure I paint all the way around the edge of my canvas. When you hang this painting up above your big old mantelpiece and your friends go over for that dinner party you've been planning, it'll be hard to convince them you spent $500 on this painting if you don't paint those edges. Make sure you paint them up. Next, I'm adding just a little bit of magenta to make a nice soft orange color. Now, a lot of times what's going to happen is you're going to get a little bit too much magenta and you'll end up with something that looks like this. Let's see if I can do it. There we go. This is not exactly what we're looking for, but a lot of times this is what happens. You end up with a yellow section and then a pink section, or one color, then the other color right next to it. And we want them to softly blend for this base coat on our sky. So I'm just gonna maybe I'll take a little bit extra white and brush right over the border between the two colors. That's the key. You can always use little bits of white for blending. Try that out, see how it works for you. But the important thing is brushing over the border between the two colors. If you put them right next to each other, they will never blend. They'll never blend. The key to blending acrylic paint is letting those colors overlap on top of each other. As I'm continuing upwards, I'm using more white and more magenta. I'm starting to bring in that lovely pink I'm going for on this wonderful morning. I want that moment that the whole sky looks like candy. It's like cotton candy up there. That's what I'm looking for. I want a cotton candy sky today. And as I'm blending upwards, I'm adding a little bit more pink. And a little bit more. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. Ooh, that's hot. That's hot. Anytime you're painting something, you want to be thinking about the flow of what you're painting. And right now I really want that long, smooth flow like the wind is gusting across the upper atmosphere. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm bringing my brush all the way across the sky. Every time your brush stops on your canvas, you can end up with texture, with little streaks. And we're going to actually use that to our advantage. I just blend them out. And you end up with tiny little indications of some far off clouds. So if you do it intentionally, it can produce some amazing effects. But as soon as you're doing it by accident, that's where we can run into some trouble. Next, I'm getting that light blue, and I'm blending upwards with the light blue, letting it mix with the edge of my pink there. Softly blending them together. There we go. Now, if you are an artist, or just someone who remembers your kindergarten lessons, you might know what happens when blue and yellow mix, and that's green. And I'm not looking for any green today, so we're going to try to avoid mixing our blues and yellows. We'll see what happens though. The great thing about acrylic paint though is anytime you get something you don't like in your painting, that never happens to me. I'm kidding, it happens to every artist. Anytime you get something in your painting you don't like, all you gotta do is wait for that area of acrylic paint to dry off, and once it's dry, you just paint right on top of it, and it's like it was never there. There's always ways of changing, editing, and adjusting things after the fact, so there's no need to worry. I'm just tossing in maybe some more white in there. Give us some variation as we move up towards the top of the sky, when I'll start to add some of this cobalt blue next. There we go. You can see here, look how many colors are on my brush. At this point, I want to just have blue up at the top of my canvas. So I'm going to make sure to wash out my brush now. I've got a wonderful little jar down here with a screen in the bottom. And that helps to knock the paint out of the brush. I swirl it around on that screen. And it comes right out. There we go. Then I've got a little washcloth, or you can use a paper towel down here to make sure to dry off your brush. Dry it all the way off. Otherwise we'll be watercoloring. And I'm not quite as good at watercoloring. Not yet. I've been practicing. I need just a little bit more of my light blue violet color here. There we go. And now that my brush is clean, now I'm just bringing that light blue up there. There we go. Helps to make those noises sometimes. And that's the kind of noises the wind makes. And that's what we're painting. We're painting the wind up there. There we go. And I'm going to actually bring this light blue all the way up to that top right hand corner. Just like you paint around the side edges of your canvas, you want to paint all the way around the top edge. You'll see me there painting around the top edge there. Get all the way around those edges. It gives it a wonderful 3D effect. It pops right off the wall. Now I'm going to slowly but surely start to add in my cobalt. Ooh, that's a dark blue. There we go. Start off with less. You can always add more. You can always add more of the cobalt. I'm using cobalt blue and light blue together there. Let them mix up there on the canvas. There we go. And anytime you're seeing these little white dots show through, That's actually the texture of the canvas showing through the paint. It's the texture of the canvas showing through the paint. And that just means I need more paint in those spots. So that's why I keep going over it. That just means I need a little more paint. Sometimes if you give it a little scrub like that, and then blend it out, give it a little scrub, blend it out, and give it a little scrub, and blend it out. Sometimes that can help you out. There we go. No one ever tells you that painting's a workout, but it is. People in my paint classes always complain about how tired they get so quick. Painting is just like going to the gym. Just like going to the gym. Except it's a little more fun than that. A little more fun. There we go. And then the darkest area, I want it to be this upper left-hand corner up here. Bring in all that cobalt. Boom. Get bold with it. There we go. The key to acrylic paint blending is letting those colors overlap one on top of the other. But the other key is how many times you brush over an area. For example, if I just brush something on there and I leave it, it's going to stay looking just like that. But if I want to soften it up, the more times I brush over an area of acrylic paint, the more that area is going to blend. Just for fun. I want to get a little spicy. I'm going to throw a little pink up here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I was looking for. A little pink and cobalt blue. It's gonna bring in just a little bit of a violet-y color up there. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Get it in there, a little violet. And as I add this violet over here, I'm actually gonna do some circular brush strokes. In the future, this is going to look like the first layer of our clouds over here. This is a little bit of cobalt, a little bit of that magenta. Just starting to lay in some far off background clouds over there. There we go. Sometimes, if you're having trouble getting an area covered up, see all those white specks coming through? I know I told you not to use water earlier. But it's just all about being intentional about what you're doing while you're painting. Because whenever you end up with one of these things, it's because there's air pockets inside the fabric, in the fabric of the canvas. And so when you paint over top of it, the air bubbles keep it white. So if you thin up your paint with a tiny bit of water, that can help you get into all those little air pockets, fill them up. This is also just the base coat on our sky, so I'm not worrying about it too much, but it's just another little tip, little trick for you. There we go. And that is our base coat right there. So I'm going to go ahead and wash out my brush now. There we go. The next thing I'm going to do is start to add in the clouds. Now, like I mentioned before, I want these clouds to be blowing up and across my sky today. They're blowing towards us, and they're blowing up and to the right. What that means is the clouds by the horizon line are going to be thinner and smaller. And as they head up towards the top, they're going to get a little bigger. There we go, just refreshing my blues because I used so much blue up there. All right. So in our painting today, I want our atmosphere down here by the horizon line to be a little thicker. I want there to be some more clouds in that area. So I'm going to go ahead and get back my magenta color and a touch of that light blue violet color. It's a lovely periwinkle almost. Mixing those two together This is almost like a mauve. A little bit of mauve. That's what we're looking for. And right across the horizon line, I'm gonna bring that mauve in. Oh yeah. There we go. Just a little bit of mauve across that horizon line. Again, that's light blue violet mixed with magenta. Right on top of that yellow. At this point, that yellow has dried, so this acrylic paint is layering right on top of it. It's layering right on top of it without any problem. And again, I'm holding my brush horizontally to get those little thin lines. And I'm giving everything a slight slant up and to the right. There we go. Maybe a touch of water again. Just to help thin up my paint a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to bring it all the way across here. I want a little extra of this mauve over here in this area. I want the brightest area to be over here on the right side. That's our brightest area. That's where the sun is really coming through. You'll notice here that I'm not really worrying about my horizon line very much. That's because I'm going to clean it up later. So don't even worry about it. If you've dripped paint down your canvas, you made a mess down here, it'll be all right. We're going to paint all on top of it. Don't worry. Don't worry. There we go. Then I want to actually form some clouds up here. So I'm going to get just magenta now, just magenta. And this time, I'm going to load a lot of magenta on the corner of my brush. Might need a little more to be able to do that. So I'm getting some magenta on my 1-inch brush, but you want the majority of the magenta to be on the corner of the brush. There we go, now you can see that, just like that. Then I'm going to take that corner of the brush up here, and I'm going to bring a cloud right across this pink area, right across the bottom edge of the pink area, and I'm going to make little circles with my brush. Don't plan it out too much. If you plan it out too much, it won't feel organic. You want all kinds of random things to be happening up there. You don't want to overplan anything. There we go. Just bring a streak of pink there. Maybe I'll add a touch of white to my brush. Oh yeah. There we go. Yeah, maybe just a touch of white in there too. Just to lighten up that pink a little bit. And then I'm just going to blend that upwards softly. I was pressing down pretty hard to get that fluffy edge. And then the top you want to softly blend down. A nice crisp bottom edge here to show that edge of the cloud. And then softly blend it upwards. There we go, and that's the bottom of the cloud. Next I'm going to get some of that cobalt blue. A little bit of cobalt. A little bit of white. And I'm going to come up here to the top of my cloud, maybe a little more cobalt. This is the dark side of the cloud. This is the top side of the cloud. Since the sun is shining upwards, we got to darken up the top of our clouds. So we're going to do the same technique using just the corner of our brush to begin with, swirling it around in a circle. There we go. And bring it all the way across the top of that pink streak we made. And then circle it down, blend it down into the pink. Blend it down into the pink. So now we should have a relatively soft fade from blue to pink. The last thing I want to do here is go back to my pink and my white. About 50-50 pink and white. And right down the middle of my cloud. Blend them together. Bring that blending in there. Oh, there we go. Now we're just going to do that a couple more times here. So if you got confused that time, I'm going to be doing it a few more times. There we go. All right. So back to pink. Plenty of pink. As I'm going up, I'm going to want my clouds to become more subdued. So this is one of the hottest pinks that we want down there. So without cleaning my brush, I'm just getting some more pink. And I think I'm going to add another little guy right in there. Sloping his way up to the right. Maybe I'll add another one right over here. I'm just making tiny little circles, and the other thing that'll help you out is changing the pressure of your brush. Change the pressure of your brush. Sometimes press down real hard and bend those bristles on the canvas. Sometimes barely touch. There we go. That'll give you that variation you're looking for. Maybe another one all the way up here. There we go. And I'm letting them get bigger and wider as they go up as well. So this one's starting to widen out. There we go. Really smashing the brush on the canvas now. Scrub it in there and bring it down. That's pretty much what we're looking for there for that pink. Then, without even cleaning out my brush, I'm just going into that cobalt blue. And I'm going to bring it across the top here. Little tiny circles with your brush. Little tiny circles. And then adjusting the pressure of the brush. There we go. You know what? Up here, in this one, I'm going to toss in the tiniest bit of white. You can see it's just a little bit. Sometimes you got to go with the flow like that. You got to try something. Maybe a touch more. There we go. That just helped to mist that out up there. There we go. Maybe a touch more white into the middle here. Yeah. Alright. Now let's hop over to these other clouds we had going on over here. Give them a little bit of shadow. Maybe I'll use some of that light blue as well. Just to help vary the tone and the color. So there's all kinds of different colors mixing and matching up here. Maybe that's a far off blue cloud. There can be blue clouds, just blue. Why not? There we go. And I got barely any paint on my brush now, so I'm just using the last of it to darken up part of this one. This little pink one I popped in here. There we go. And that's a pretty good second pass on my sky here. The last thing I want to do this week on this sky is heat up our hot points. What I mean by that is the points where the sun is really glinting. We've got this one hot point, that's looking pretty hot to me. But let's make him even hotter. Bring a little hot pink around the bottom here. There we go. Acrylic painting is all about layering the paint. So that's why I do one whole pass, see how it looks, do another whole pass, see how it looks, do another whole pass. Really lightly with my brush, tossing in some real hot stuff down there. It's a hot morning. Maybe we'll cool it off. I like to go a little overboard sometimes. There we go, a little bit of white added into that pink, just to give it a slight tone down. There we go. I get a little crazy. Get a little excited sometimes. What can I say? There we go. Then, speaking of crazy, we haven't touched this yellow in a little bit. So I'm going to be taking some yellow. I still have white on my brush, and I'm taking just a touch of yellow, again on the corner of my brush, and I'm just going to add that little sparkle to the bottom of the clouds, tiny circles, barely touching the canvas. This is all just with a 1-inch brush. You can do all kinds of things with just this 1-inch brush. You don't need all kinds of fancy stuff to have fun painting, making art. Whatever you've got, you can use. Maybe you don't have a canvas. You know what I used to do is I used to paint on wood. Just find a plank of wood in the garage. That's what I used to paint on. That works great. All you got is paper, then you can use some paper. Let's add another sparkle up here. There we go. Just white and yellow. Barely touching the canvas, using just the corner of my brush. There we go. Wash out my brush. And I'm going to come back here and just soften some of that up on these clouds that are further away. These ones I want to be nice and hot. These ones are a little further away, so I'm just going to soften up just with a blank brush. That's what I call it when I don't have any more paint on my brush. I call that a blank brush. Don't have any paint on there but what I'm picking up off the canvas. And I'm just smearing it around. Smudging it and smearing it, that's all. There we go. Now this area I haven't worried too much about because in the future, we're going to cover it up. We're going to cover that little area up. We're going to clean up that whole horizon line. But next week, we got to deal with this area down here. That's going to be our water. So check back in next week. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and you'll be able to come back next week and see how to paint our beautiful water. Have a great day. God bless. Art.